What's good, y'all? I already know where y'all at. It's your boy Star Jones, and it's a new episode of Star Views. It's about to start right now. So please, I hope you got your hookah ready, and I hope you got your cups full of whatever ready, because I got a lot to talk about, alright? Know what's going on. Star Jones, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Please and thanks, you heard? It's good to be back, folks. 2021 is here, and looks like the film industry is getting back to regularly scheduled programming, man. I'm excited. Definitely looking forward to talking to you guys about everything coming out this year. But to spark it off, we're going to start with Coming to America. Coming to America is the sequel to Coming to America, starring Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, James Earl Jones, Wesley Snipes. The list goes on forever. It's a lot of star-studded black actors and actresses in this film. And as I mentioned in my Chopping It Up session that I posted recently, I wasn't too excited about talking about this film. I wasn't really looking forward to it. But I went to social media. I asked my followers and I asked my friends on Facebook, should I talk about it? And they said, yeah, Star, talk about it. We would love to hear what you have to say. And then on top of that, I see a lot of disconnection and division on people's opinions on how they feel about the film. So that kind of also motivated me to talk about it. So with that said, I am going to talk about this with slight reluctancy. Like, I'm motivated to talk about it, but it is slight reluctancy. But it is what it is. I'm here. I'm back. I'm happy you guys are here to join me on this black couch and my guy Bruce over here. So yeah, I'm gonna hook up this hookah real fast and I'll be right back, alright? Yeah. Straight mint. You don't need nothing else. Nothing else. But anyway, let's talk about this film, alright? So, I'm sure some of you have all seen the original. I hope y'all seen the original because the original is a classic. Coming to America, again starring Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall. It was definitely a good film. It came out in 1988. So if you do the math, this is about 30 years plus before we actually got the sequel. Again, as I mentioned, wasn't really looking forward to it. But anyway, I watched it. And so pretty much the premise and the overview of the film, we pretty much see Prince Hakeem and his family. We learn that he's still happily married to the Queen of Queens. Shout out to Queens, doing big things. Queens get the money. You know that. And he has 3 children, and all of which are women, all daughters. He has all girls. And I'm sure we all seen the Game of Thrones of the world and the movies and TV shows where king and queens are involved. And we know if there's an untimely death of a king, who's to take over? The son, right? Exactly. So that's when we, in the film, we meet James Earl Jones, his father from the previous film. And, you know, one of his dying wishes, unfortunately he's passing in the movie. That's not much of a spoiler. But one of his dying wishes and his emphasis is having an heir to the throne, and he needs to have a son. Of course, Prince Hakeem, now King Hakeem, of course, you know, he feels a way about it. You know, he has no control over his genetic structure of his children or his offspring, so he feels a way. But in the film, he finds out that he has a bastard child where he had a one-night stand with a woman in Queens. I don't want to ruin it, but it's an interesting story on how this bastard son came about. So pretty much throughout the course of the film, they have to get his new found son pretty much acclimated with the royalty lifestyle. And pretty much he has to be groomed again into this lifestyle, and we pretty much see his journey from being a kid from Queens to now the Prince of Zamunda. There's a lot of conflict in it. Not a lot of, well, it's a conflict in the film because Wesley Snipes' character is a general from Nextoria. It's a funny name, but from Nextoria, and pretty much If you guys remember the first film, the woman that he was supposed to marry and he didn't marry, that's General Izzy's sister. So for the 30 years that have gone by in the film's timeline, General Izzy has always felt a way about that because he left his sister hanging out to dry. And he's always had this motive to get rid of Prince Hakeem the day he was to become king. So to avoid that, they have like this agreement, like, well, if he was to have a son, he can marry my daughter. And the daughter is played by Tiana Taylor. So, like the first film, Lavelle, who was his son, Lavelle Johnson, shout out to the Johnsons, Lavelle Johnson is his son. So pretty much Lavelle has to marry Tiana Taylor's character. But in typical Coming to America fashion, of course, he's not all the way in I think he's interested in Tiana Taylor's character. Like, she looked good. Like, so he's like, yeah, he's lusting over her, like, yo, she's fire. But he also has the royal groomer, who he's dealing with on a daily basis. He interacts with her. He confides in her, stresses to her about how difficult this journey and this transition is, and at some point he starts to like the royal groomer. So now he's at a, I guess, impasse. He's at a situation where he's like, I don't want to marry her, I want to marry somebody who has substance, someone I care about. So of course that puts King Hakeem in a pickle, and now that's pretty much the story. Pretty much King Hakeem has to deal with his son not trying to do the traditional arranged wedding and having to deal with the consequences for the son deviating from the plan. So that's pretty much the film in a nutshell. And once I come back, I'm pretty much going to put you on to what I liked about the film, what I disliked about the film, and ultimately what I'm going to grade the film. Alright? So I'll be back in 2 ticks. I'm going to enjoy this mint hookah that I cooked up, and I'll be back in a second. So the moment we all been waiting for. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I was not all the way thrilled about seeing this film. And before I actually give you the star rating, I'm going to tell you a little bit of pros and, you know, the cons of the film. So I'm going to start with the pros because I feel like the cons outweigh the pros. I will say I do appreciate what Eddie Murphy and the creators of this film did for the up-and-coming black actors and actresses of the film. It gives them an opportunity to present themselves and, you know, give them a platform to showcase their talents, and hopefully opens windows and opportunities for them. Also in the film, I will, you know, say this, and this is a big difference from the first film, a lot of women empowerment, you know. In the film, again, like I mentioned, he had 3 daughters, and one of the issues in the film was his oldest daughter was prepared to take over the throne whenever the time was right and when it was fitting. But due to the traditions that he had to kind of like, well, he didn't have to, but he chose to, you know, ignore the fact that his daughter was ready, you know, and pretty much kind of like made his daughter look crazy. But in the end, you'll see for yourself that he ultimately makes a great decision, and it just showcases women empowerment, and it, you know, it gives young African American women, you know, hope that, you know, just something to look forward to and something to be motivated about, and to, you know, chase the power that they want. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely appreciate that. Now, as far as the cons of the film, I think the comedy, I know that, because again, with the original, the first film, it was hilarious. Like, I think everything about that film was organic. It was lit. Like, I literally was crying when I watched the first film. But that didn't necessarily translate well into the second film. I think a lot of the comedy, they was trying to force feed us the comedy. They tried to emulate the first film, which is understandable, but it just didn't translate well. And it, like I said, it seemed forced. So it was a lot of times where I was laughing, but it wasn't like ha ha shit man funny. It was more so like ha ha this shit dumb. You get what I'm saying? So that's one of the takes. And one of the flashback scenes when we're introduced to how Lavelle was conceived, his son, they used the de-aging CGI and that wasn't really good. And I'm big on movies as a whole, so like little details like that is something that sticks out to me. Um, and it kind of bothered me. Arsenio Hall had an African accent in the first film, and it's like he completely abandoned it in this one. You heard it a little bit, not so much, and that was just also weird to me. It's like just stay consistent with the character that you had in the first film. What else was an issue for me? Oh yes, Lavelle Johnson, the son. He's played by Jermaine Fowler. Jermaine Fowler. I don't know much about Jermaine Fowler, but I feel like Eddie Murphy could have did a better job casting the role. Again, he's from Queens. I'm from Queens. I feel like that was a terrible representation of someone from Queens, and I get it. He didn't have the most money growing up in the film, so he kind of struggled. But I just feel like I think Hollywood does this a lot. I think the way they cast inner city kids and the way they dress them and the way they have them act is just awful. And this was another example of like not so good casting. And then him as and I'm sorry if I feel like if you're watching this, Lavelle, Jermaine, and you feel like I'm attacking you, I apologize. But I just feel like he didn't do a good job. There was scenes where he had to be passionate, emotional, and it just was like, bro, this is bad. I'm sure some of you agree. And again, the way they dressed them, it was just really bad. And for me, it was just like, as a person from Queens, it's just like, please do better. But overall, I didn't really enjoy the film. I think it was alright. Especially considering how good the first one was. I think if I was rating the first one, I would have gave that like a 7. And with that said, I'm gonna give this film a 4. I can't stress it enough. It was a lot of things in the film I did not like. It wasn't good. Like, it just wasn't good. So in closing, I just want to say I appreciate you guys for checking in, sitting down with me, and chopping it up about this film. I'm sorry if you guys don't agree with me and if you guys love the film, but again, don't waste your time going to see it. Well, pulling it up on Amazon Prime because it's at your disposal in your house. But again, to each their own. If you want to see it, fine. But if you don't, I don't blame you. For those who haven't seen any of the movies, watch the first one and leave it there. They could have really did without it. And it's funny because they mentioned this in the film. They made a joke about how Hollywood always makes sequels when, the original was so good. They made a joke about it, but it ended up being applicable to this film because the sequel wasn't warranted. It was warranted, but we didn't need it. And they could have did without it. They could have saved the budget. But, again, 4 stars. Don't waste your time. And that's my time. I will see you on the next episode of Star Views. And that's where I'll be chopping up about the movie Boogie. Directed by Eddie Wang. Please don't shoot me if I said your name wrong. And starring Taylor Takahashi and Pop Smoke. R.I.P. Alright? So I'm going to see y'all next time. Star Jones, I'm out. Oh, y'all still here? Appreciate y'all for sticking around, man. But I don't got no more hookah. But what I do have is more content on my YouTube channel. So please, if you haven't done so already, hit that red button and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get notified as soon as I post anything. Alright? And if you haven't already followed me on social media, here's my information. Make sure y'all follow up. Appreciate it. Y'all still here, man. That's valid. Have a good one.